You know, you get to see these guys in person. It just gives you a real sense of just the presence that they have. And
he has nothing left to prove. Just turn on the tape. Like, the tape is unbelievable.
Day 4 of the NFL Scouting Combine here in Indianapolis. And folks, it's the day we've all been waiting for. Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, all huge positions of needs for the Patriots. Evan, we finally got a chance to hear from the big three. We're going to stick with those guys, I think, atop the draft, because signs here in Indy seem to be pointing that the Patriots are going to be interested in taking a quarterback there.
Yeah, absolutely. They've met with really the top of the quarterback class here in Indianapolis, and then they got some guys in at the Senior Bowl in Mobile too. So they've basically met with everybody at this point in this quarterback class. And I think the two things that you have to look at are not necessarily if they will take a quarterback, but who will be available for them at the 3rd overall pick. They don't necessarily control their own destiny when it comes to who's going to be on the board. So we can discuss that a little bit between Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels, though. We were discussing this a little bit. You can't really go wrong with either guy. Like,
sign me up. One of those two. I'm fine.
They both have warts. They both have issues that they're going to have to work through in the NFL. But I think both guys are worthy of the 3rd overall pick.
Let's talk a little bit about Caleb Williams off the top. I mean, kind of the consensus favorite for, I guess, most of the winter or fall, as you would call it. And, you know, he was up there for a while. Huge gathering around Caleb Williams. You know, what did you hear from him?
Well, I just think this is a little bit of a modern athlete here, and I understand that that's going to rub some people the wrong way, and he's going about the draft process a little bit differently. He's only going to reveal his medicals to the teams that he meets with privately in the top 30 visits. He's not doing medicals here in Indianapolis for all 32 teams to see, but that's not totally unheard of for prospects that are of his stature. I mean, maybe a guy that's going to go the 3rd or 4th round doesn't pull that off, but someone that's the consensus #1 overall pick, it's not that outlandish for him to do things like that, but for whatever reason, it just rubs people the wrong way. I don't know why, but it just does. I think the one thing that you heard from him was, you know, asked about his size, asked about some of this off-field stuff, and he had some answers for all of it. You know, he's definitely been coached up and knows that these questions are coming, but I think it's more coming from people like us, the media, than it really is from the teams. I don't think the teams are overly concerned with some of these knocks.
So I really like just getting to hear Jayden Daniels finally, Drake Maye. You know, you get to see these guys in person. It just gives you a real sense of just the presence that they have. And, you know, both guys, different vibes. I felt kind of like, you know, Daniels a little bit cooler, a little bit more quiet. And of course, Drake Maye just has that kind of Southern gentleman vibe. Had an answer for everything, but both just guys to me that seemed like they had kind of that moxie that you look for in a top of a first-round quarterback.
It was funny. I thought their personalities reflect how they play on film. I think Jayden Daniels is a lot more quiet in the pocket, a lot more calm in the pocket, whereas Drake Maye at times can be a little bit frantic with his footwork or wanting to escape the pocket or run as first sign of pressure. That's something that I think he feels like he needs to work on. He talked about sliding around in the pocket a little bit more instead of just first sign of trouble, I'm out. And I think that Jayden Daniels is somebody that kind of sits there a little bit more. And that's sort of what it was like at the podium. You know, Drake Maye jumps right up on the podium, doesn't even use the stairs, just jumps right up there. He's a ball of energy. Jayden Daniels just kind of gets up there with a little bit of,
swag.
Really kind of cool calmness. So whichever one you like. I think both these guys have a lot of leadership intangibles. Drake Maye, though, certainly you hear that a ton from people that he's someone that at UNC was one of those gravity type of players that really had to pull the locker room and the feel of the locker room, and people gravitated towards him. But if you really look at it at this point, I do think that Jayden Daniels is slightly ahead on the consensus boards over Drake Maye. Just a little bit more consistent, a little bit more repeatable mechanics in the pocket as a thrower, and less warts as a passer right now going into the league, whereas Drake Maye a little bit more of a project.
All right, let's move over to wide receivers. And, you know, we were all gathered around waiting for Marvin Harrison Jr., the consensus #1. Oh, actually, I'm not going to say that. I mean, probably is the consensus #1. But Malik Nabers is outstanding as well. But Marvin Harrison all of a sudden just didn't show up. And, you know, these things kind of happen from time to time when everybody's waiting for somebody and, oh, he's not going to go. Sometimes they're in medicals, but a little bit disappointing. Would have liked to have at least seen him, heard from him, get a little bit of a sense from him.
Yeah, I wonder if we do eventually hear from him before the week is out. I don't know if we will, but I think the biggest thing with him is similar to Caleb Williams. He has nothing left to prove. Like, he doesn't have to come up and answer questions. He doesn't have to run a 40-yard dash. He doesn't have to do any of these things, and he's earned that. It's not just because it's not for no reason. I mean, just turn on the tape. Like, the tape is unbelievable. So what else are you really going to show at this a podium in this setting?
So with no Marvin Harrison here, that put the spotlight on Malik Nabers, who to me is just one of the most explosive guys I've seen in a while. He's going to make an impact, probably not in the Patriots range unless we're talking trade downs, but I've already made peace. We're probably not going to get him.
Yeah, he to me has a superpower that is maybe the best in this draft, and that's his speed, obviously. And I always look at superpowers because I think it's important, carrying trade superpower, whatever you want to call it, that you have to have one thing that you can say, this is what makes me special. This is what makes me different than other people. I think for Marvin Harrison, it's the movement skills at 6'4". Like to be able to sink and cut and get open at the top of the route for a guy that size. He runs routes like he's 5'11", but he's 6'4", and he has that frame. For Malik Nabers, it's the burners. I mean, that guy just shot out of a cannon on film, whether it's after the catch, it's on before the catch and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have somebody accounting for that guy over the top all the time as soon as he steps on the field. It's very Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle-esque. I compared him to Jalen Waddle, maybe a little bit taller, just someone that you're always going to have to worry about where he is on the field.
So the area we're kind of always looking at is maybe top of round 2. We don't know how it's going to go.
Right.
If they're going to go quarterback, do you want to tackle? Do they trade back up and try to get somebody? Just a couple lower level prospects maybe that actually would be available down there. Got a chance to look at A.D. Mitchell, who, another one who just seems like a guy who has got the size, he's got some explosiveness. I know he's a riser for you.
Yes.
After it's all said and done, you feel like he's probably going to be a first rounder.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be my wide receiver 5. I think the top 4 guys are pretty consensus. We didn't mention Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas are 3-4. And I think right now A.D. Mitchell is probably 5 on most people's lists. He's another one of those guys similar to Harrison that is 6'3", 6'4", but moves like a much smaller guy. You can see the foot quickness, the ability to sink your hips and get in and out of the route efficiently. Those things that create separation along with size to win at the catch point down the field on jump balls, on vertical passes. So he's got it all. I don't really think there's many flaws to his game. Maybe not a high-end speed guy. I don't expect him to run a 4.35 or anything like that, but I expect him to run a perfectly respectable time for his size, 4.5, maybe lower, high 4.4s, something along those lines, and he'll check all those boxes.
Just to throw a couple more names at you, Jalen Polk, another one I'm kind of a fan of, really like him, the other Washington wide receiver. You mentioned as well Roman Wilson, who another one has some versatility that certainly I think the Patriots could use. Didn't get to see Malachi Corley, though. That was another guy that, he's kind of that Debo comp, and I know we all love Debo, and I think that's a good fit for the Patriots offense right now. Didn't get to see him, though. He's another guy. Any guys that lower-level guys that you would like to mention?
Well, I love Roman Wilson. I have since Mobile, and I think he's going to be a good player in the league, and he's expecting to run extremely fast in the 40. He told reporters that he's going to run in the 4.3s, which I know he's fast, but I didn't know if he was quite that fast. So we'll see if he actually lives up to that. But that's a really good number if he can do that. I just think that you look at players and you look at explosiveness. That's what this Patriots offense is
weaponize that offense.
It really is, and I look at Roman Wilson as a player that can do that. I also think that a guy like Xavier Legette is not necessarily my cup of tea, but I think that he's going to work out well here at the Combine, and he said he met with the Patriots, so maybe there's some interest there in that player as well. But I look at it right now as A.D. Mitchell, Roman Wilson are kind of my 2 guys, whether you go at A.D. Mitchell end of the first round, 34, something like that, or wait a little bit longer for a guy like Roman Wilson.
All right, lastly, running backs, and that's another need for the Patriots. Really, Ramondre Stevenson coming into the last year of his deal. The big piece, of course, Blake Corum from Michigan, who had outstanding playoff, explosive guy. He was great. Loved hearing from him. What did you think of his presentation?
Yeah, just low center of gravity as a player, which I always like at the running back position. Great contact balance and shiftiness, and I think that those are things that usually translate to the league pretty well. I also love Bucky Irving. I'm a
Bucky Irving. Let's go.
I
love
Irving guy.
I love him.
I just watching Bo Nix a lot, watching Troy Franklin, that Oregon offense. You can't help but notice the running back too, explosive back, great complimentary back to Ramondre
That's
Stevenson.
what I'm just literally the point I was going to make.
I just think that he's somebody that if they're going to target a running back 3rd or 4th round, there's going to be a run at running back at some point. There's probably not going to be any in the 1st round, but at some point on day 2, you'll see a run start. and at that point you kind of have to jump in and make sure the parade doesn't pass you by. And both those guys, I mean, Corum will probably be RB1 or RB2, but I do really like Bucky Irving as well.
It's a really interesting position, running back. You can get him really throughout the draft. You can get some explosion. Just a couple other low-level guys. Imani Bailey from TCU. Liked, what I heard from him. Dylan Labe from UNH, local kid who can kind of do it all. You got a closer look at him. Or was he at the Shrine Bowl? Or the
No, he was at the Senior Bowl,
yeah.
and he was extremely impressive, explosive guy. He can really get out and one cut, get up the field. Probably more of like a spread shotgun style running back. I don't think that he has to be just a third down back, though. I think he's someone that could play a little bit more in sub package, but an early down sub package role as well. And I also really like Marshawn Lloyd from USC, just a guy that can get out of the backfield and get vertical wheel routes, things like that out of the backfield, and the passing game is effective. But I like Dylan Labe. You don't have to pitch me on Dylan Labe. I'd take him all day.
All right, so much to unpack, and be sure to listen to the podcast version of this where we'll really go into depth on these guys and give a few more sleepers that we're looking at and made an impression on us today. But a lot to digest today. We love it, though. This is the Offense Day. This is what we've been waiting for. So check out that podcast, and one more day to go. Stay tuned here from Indy. We've got more coming your way still.